Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and this week on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast, I talk with Justin Nava, host of the Best Known Church Show, and we'll talk all things church marketing, plus scripture and nerdy news, and we'll get to all of that right after this. Thanks so much for joining me this week. We have some really great interviews coming up over the next few weeks and an exciting announcement I'm working on. I can't wait to be able to share it with you soon. Well, but first, let's start with some scripture. Matthew 3, 1-6. In those days, John the Baptist came, preaching in the wilderness of Judea, saying, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near." This is he who was spoken of through the prophet Isaiah, a voice of one calling in the wilderness, "Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight paths for him." John's clothes were made of camel's hair, and he had a leather belt around his waist. His food was locust and wild honey. People went out to him from Jerusalem and all Judea, and the whole region of the Jordan, confessing their sins. They were baptized by him in the Jordan River. And Matthew 3:11, I baptize you with water for repentance, but after me comes one who is more powerful than I, whose sandals I am not worthy to carry. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. John the Baptist was announcing the coming of Jesus to everyone who would listen. When I talked with Justin this week, we talked about moving churches from the best kept secret in town to being the best known organization in town. Often I think we hide Jesus away in our hearts sometimes, and we don't open up and share and make him known. I want to challenge you to consider sharing the gospel in a more active way than we sometimes do. Make him known in your own personal life. Don't keep Jesus as the best kept secret in your life. If you take up that challenge, reach out to me and let me know. I would love to hear your story. Before we get to the interview, I do want to share some nerdy news that's been happening lately. Jonathan Majors was arrested for alleged assault. A representative says the actor has done nothing wrong. The MCU star, who's currently portraying the major Phase 5 and 6 villain, Kang the Conqueror, was arrested Saturday in New York after what police described as a domestic dispute with a 30-year-old female, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Major's lawyer says, "We are quickly gathering and presenting evidence to the district attorney with the expectation that all charges will be dropped immediately." Majors has since been released, and there are some reports that the accuser may have recanted her claims. We'll have to wait and see if there is anything or that really happened, or if there is any fallout that will occur that will affect the future projects for Marvel. This will be an interesting thing to watch over the next few weeks. John Wick 4 took the lead at the box office this weekend with an opening of over $70 million domestically and over $130 million worldwide, doing considerably better than its previous outing, and this marks the highest opening for any Lionsgate film since the pandemic. We received our first on-set look at Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn this week, being escorted by Gotham police officers in a large crowd. And this is from Todd Phillips' sequel to his Oscar-winning 2019 hit Joker, with actor Joaquin Phoenix playing the title character. Gaga's Harley Quinn, much like Phoenix's Joker, is much more real-world and less over-the-top than previous incarnations we've seen on the large or small screen. This will also live in an Elseworld continuum rather than James Gunn's main DCU that's going to be coming up. Warner Brothers is set to release Joker Folie à Deux on October 4th, 2024. A new clip released of the new Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves has a great cameo for a live action version of the 1980s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon characters. There have also been an announcement a month or so ago of a Dungeons and Dragons TV series on Paramount Plus. I don't have very much information on that yet, but I'm excited to see what that might be. I'm hoping that this movie and a future TV show does some great honor to that 1980s cartoon as well. Now let's dive into our interview with Justin Nava. Justin Nava, it is so great to finally have you on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast.
It is so great to finally be here / be here again, because I can't remember if I've been on here before. I take full responsibility for that. The problem is, Ricky, is I see your background, which I see often because you're on my Nerd Pastors podcast, which is on hiatus right now. You're almost like a permanent guest host. So I don't know if I'm just like, this feels familiar because I've just had you on my show so many times, or if this feels familiar because I've been on your show and I'm a terrible guest because you're like, is this your first time here? And I'm like, I thought not, but maybe it is. I don't know. But anyways, it's good to be connected with you, Ricky, because since the Nerd Pastors podcast has been on hiatus for going on 5 or 6 months now, it's good to finally talk to you here in this format.
Absolutely. Well, and I know for sure this will be the first time you have been on the podcast to actually talk about what you do.
Yeah.
If you've been on the podcast before, I bet we just talked about some nerdy pursuit.
We nerded out about something.
Star Wars or some Marvel movie or something like that. Because I've had people on the show to have conversations like that before. So it's possible you were on one of those. But we want to focus a little more on what you're doing now. But first, for those who don't know, Justin, go ahead and just tell us who Justin Nava is.
Well, I'm obviously a Christ follower first, husband, a father, a church marketer. I'm a big nerd, unfortunately not as big as I used to be, and that's not a weight joke. It's just I have so many things that I want to see happen. My personal vision, Ricky, and for anyone watching out there, to put everything that I'm about to tell you in context, for not just in this part, but I'm talking about the whole show, to put it in context is I have a personal vision that within my lifetime, I want to see 1 million churches become the cornerstone of their community, meaning the people in their community, the people they're equipped to serve, whether that's part of a town, the whole town, or just a neighborhood like my church, everyone in that area should know the church, just like they know in America, for example. I don't know how big of an international audience is, but my audience is primarily American. I like to say everyone in your town knows about the local Walmart. They know where it is, they know when it's open, and they know what to expect when they go there, for good or for bad. So in the same vein, I want everyone in your community to know where your church is, to know when you're open, and what to expect when they engage with you, whether that's online or in person at a Sunday service or event. That's just my vision there. And the best way that I know to start is to help churches by equipping them to not only do their own marketing, but really we're starting to do the marketing for them. Working with a lot of bivocational pastors and small churches that don't have the volunteer capacity or even the financial capacity to bring on a paid staff member. So we are essentially their agency to help promote their church to the world, which, by the way, the agency is called Nava Church Marketing. And I specifically say church marketing because church communications is such a broad term that includes your internal communications to your staff, to your membership. We are your marketing agency. Our primary purpose is to run your marketing, which is your external communications. So you can focus on the 70, 100, 200 people inside the church. We're going to focus on the 200,000 outside the church. Even if you're not a church leader, you can still help grow your church. You can still help impact your community because take this from a marketing guy. 85% of people still come to church because of a personal invite. So what we do as a marketing agency, we are not going to replace that 85%. I don't even want to replace 1%. What I want to do is when you make that invite, I want people to say, I've heard of that church. Oh yeah, I know that. I heard good things. It's like when you recommend a movie, right? Yeah. Versus, hey, you want to come to my church? Ugh, what's that? No thanks. Like I've tried churches before, right? It's kind of like when you recommend a movie and they're like, oh, I saw the commercial for that, or the podcast I heard recommended that, versus, hey, you want to go see this movie? That has that actor in it. No, thanks. I don't like him. Or, I mean, when they've already heard of you and you make that invite, it's so much easier. So I'm not here to replace the personal invite. What I want to do is enhance it and to open more opportunities for you to make that invite, but then also the church to make that invite and disciple people more any day of the week, any time of the week, instead of just trying to get them to come to Sunday. Because, I mean, unfortunately, again, the time we live in, that just seems subversive. So yeah, anyways, definitely if you're not a church leader, you can still have a lot to gain from this just by figuring out yourself. How am I going to share my church in the grocery store in the line? Am I going to say we meet Sundays at 9:30, or am I going to say this church helped to rescue me from a really dark time? Like, that's huge. You can do this stuff yourself just as a layperson. So yeah, I mean, go and be disciples, and we'll try to help make it easier for you. So that's awesome. A little bit about me and what we do at Nava Church Marketing.
Very cool. Well, I know for, coming from a church background, I know some people have a bad taste in their mouth when we throw around the word marketing. And now, I do a lot of that as well. So help our audience understand why marketing in the church area isn't really it's not a bad word. Why is marketing important for a local church?
Because I don't believe, and I don't think you believe it either, the devil should not get all the attention. I mean, that's really what it is. I can't remember who said it. They wrote a song, "Why does the devil get all the good music?" Yes. I like to say, why does the devil get all the attention? Any moment that someone is not focused, whether they're in your church or not, any moment that someone is not focused on the things above, or they are searching for worldly solutions to spiritual problems, that's an issue, okay? Not only that, and again, I'm going to speak primarily because we talked a little bit before the show, Ricky. I am gifted and equipped to help serve the American church. I would love to bring someone on staff that can bring an international capability to our organization, but I just don't have that right now. So Americans are bombarded with so many marketing messages. And if the church is not there to not only match, but rise above that noise, we are going to stay in obscurity. In addition to that, a lot of that noise is going to be news reports of pastor abuse, pastor infidelity, or church abuse. It's going to be TikTok clips of absolutely insane, what I call I don't call it, but I use the term wolves in sheep's clothing. That is people with the pastor title running a congregation that is leading them off the path. They are not teaching biblical principles. They are not equipping their flock. They're not focused on discipleship. They're focused on either their own pocketbook, they're focused on their own narcissism, or they really honestly believe, because they haven't been properly discipled, that they are teaching a good message. People are getting news reports of church abuse. They're getting TikTok and Instagram videos of pastors doing insane things, and these videos are just getting shared. And not only that, Ricky, we're not helping each other because we have a great campaign or a bad campaign. Who cares about He Gets Us? And instead of focusing on the message of Jesus, everyone just sees Christians arguing whether or not it was good or bad. And so who wants to join a house like that? Who wants to go, right? We know the houses we want to go to on Thanksgiving because everyone's jolly and thankful and the food's good. And everyone knows the house you don't want to go on Thanksgiving because everyone's arguing, drunk, and hating each other. Well, if we're just going to sit here and the church is going to argue with each other on Twitter out in the open, who's going to want to go to a church like that? So those are the three things that are working against our communities. And if we want to effectively reach them, it is a necessary evil, if you want to look at it that way, that we need to learn how to promote and position our church to be the answer to our community. We are no longer the cornerstone of the community. I loved Ricky, and people will say, oh, you're just an old fogey, and like you don't act your age. I don't care.
You're not nearly as old a fogey as I am.
50 years ago, this will show my spiritual age. People say, like, you just sound like an old man yelling at his lawn, yelling from his porch. Get off my lawn. 50 years ago, Ricky, 60 years ago, let's say within the last century, driveways were empty on Sunday mornings. Restaurants and stores did not open until 1 o'clock on Sunday. And weekend extracurriculars for school was unheard of. It was a joke. Fast forward to today, and the church is non-existent. We are the best kept secret. We don't know how to tell our stories. We don't know how to properly invite people. And when we do, it sounds like all we're doing is asking for free labor and attention in exchange for nothing. And that's why people have false impressions of our church. And no matter how much good work you're doing, capital G, good work you're doing, it's overshadowed by what others are doing inept or falsely, or they won't pay attention to you because they just assume you're like every other church. And so that's why it's so important that when we say church marketing, first of all, it's just a designator to focus on. We're not going to write your emails. We're not going to do your social media posts organically. We're going to do your social media advertising. We're going to write your external emails. We're going to help you get seen by more people and attract the attention of more people to persuade them that your church is worth paying attention to. Your church can serve them. Your church can help them in what they're dealing with right now, because it's not so much the church that's doing the help, we're guiding them to the help. So the marketing term, okay, here we go. By the way, Justin, ADD extraordinaire here. I haven't taken my second dose today, so thank you for going me on that ride. It was fun, wasn't it? We're going to go on a few of them today. This is a carnival we're on here, right? And we've got the all access band.
Absolutely.
So all that to say, unfortunately, I was talking to someone this morning. The church in America is a business, okay? And some people look at that as a bad thing. And I think in many ways it can be a bad thing. However, the reason why we can have congregations of even 30 versus in other parts of the world where your congregation is 8, I'm thankful for that 8. I'm thankful for this 30. And even if you have a congregation of 30 and you have a public gathering place, the reason you can do that is because the church is a business. So let's not stray away. Okay. We already have financial reports. We already have budgets. We already have salaries. We already have maintenance costs. We have everything else a business has to operate a church in America. Let's not stray away from the fact that as part of being a church in America, you need to learn how to promote and market yourself. And not only that, going back to the example of everyone has a false impression of what a church is. Not only that, we have to learn how to position ourselves and debrand ourselves from the other churches. Because if you ask 100 people what a church is, you're going to get 117 different answers. And not one of them is going to fully describe your church. The reason why we're planting thousands of churches every year, the reason why even a smallest city in Texas of less than 1,000 people has 4 churches is because every church is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. And if you don't communicate who you're called to serve, how you can serve them, and the spiritual transformation they can expect when they engage with your church, then they're going to assume you are that TikTok church. They're going to assume you are the church they read about in the news. They're going to assume you're the same church that they grew up going to, that their grandma dragged them to, and they never want to return to again. It is our duty as a church in America to market ourselves, and not in a consumerist way, but in a way that showcases the transformational power and the testimonies of God our Savior, and how you can find your faith, purpose, hope, peace, joy, love, ultimately through interacting with Christ the Savior. And we'll help you get there because, hey, we're on the same path.
Awesome. Well, you said a lot of things there, a lot of specific terms that I want to kind of dive into just a little bit.
Sure.
So I want to get a little bit deeper with you. Now, we're talking about you're talking about setting that expectation of who your church is, letting people understand why your church is different. Now, and as in my world, I run a lot of paid ads, but I also work with groups that are doing a more organic reach with their social media and things like that. And you mentioned, you hinted at the paid part, and you explicitly mentioned the organic thing. So when you're talking about church marketing, is it just paid ads, or is it also how you present your social media, how you present your website? Is it more than just paid ads?
Yes, yeah, we take a comprehensive or holistic approach. Now, that's not to say we sprinkle essential oils on your website or on your computer. I just think holistic is a great way to say it, because we view it, Ricky, I view church marketing and promoting your church like a puzzle. Okay. I need to get a prop because I tell this story almost every day now. If I held up a blue puzzle piece and said, "What is this?" you would say that's an ocean, that's a sky, that's a blue hat, maybe, or a blue shirt. You don't know what this puzzle, well, you don't have a full picture just by looking at this one blue puzzle piece. Now, if I put a couple pieces next to it and there's some white in that blue, you get a little bit better. Maybe it's the sky and that's a cloud, or maybe it's the cresting waves and the white part of a wave, whatever that's called. And so maybe it's the ocean, or maybe it's some lady's sundress and it's blue with a little bit of white in it. Like, you're starting to get a little bit more of a picture, but you still don't know exactly what it is. So the reason why we take a holistic approach, meaning, yeah, you can do one piece of the puzzle, but just because you fix your website doesn't mean your community is going to care about who you are. Just because you get a social media strategy doesn't mean you're going to capture any new attention or persuade them that your church is the one that's best equipped to serve them versus the wolf down the street. You have to have the full picture. You have to do the entire puzzle. And so that's how we approach it. We have a program that we run churches through, and it's one of the ways we can get, for example, a small Florida church from 3 guests a month to 30 in 1 year, is because we hit everything in a marketing standpoint. 3 biggest things. We focus on your foundation. That's figuring out who you are and how to communicate it. We focus on your discoverability. That's your website and getting it in front of more people. Because if you have a website and no one's looking at it, it's like having a road that no one drives on, right? The reason you have a road is for people to drive on. So we drive traffic to that website. The way we do that is through search engine optimization, which is more discoverability. People searching for churches, people searching for felt needs that your church can answer. The last part of it, after foundation and discovery, is maximizing attention. That's going out and grabbing people who don't even know that they don't know you and telling them, we're here for you. We don't even know you and we love you. We care for you. How can we help you? Because if you just post organically on social media, you're going to hit the people that follow you, and you're maybe going to hit the people that they know. You're hitting your circle or the circle of your circle, which if you've got 1,000 followers, maybe you're hitting, on a good day, 1,000 followers, 100 are going to see your post. Maybe they share it. Maybe you get visibility of 400 or 500 people. Or you can spend $10 and actually hit all those 1,000 followers, or spend $100 and hit 7,000 people that don't even know they don't know your church, but you can serve them, you can help them. So we focus on the advertising because, again, we want to focus to the external, and we'll teach you how to do the organic because that helps nurture the people that follow you. But we really want to hit the external, which is why I really enjoy. I mean, if you're going to ask me what's my favorite social media platform right now in a church context, it's going to be Instagram Reels or TikTok, because every other platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram posting, YouTube, even to an extent now, unless you know how to deal with the algorithm, those are follower-based platforms, meaning what you post organically is really just going to be seen by your followers. But TikTok, Instagram Reels, and some cases YouTube or YouTube Shorts are interest-based algorithms, meaning they don't care who you follow, they care what you're interested in. So if I open my TikTok, it knows I'm a Christian nerd who I'm also a dad, and I have a little girl, and my kids are in Montessori school. They know all this stuff about me. So they show me funny fatherhood videos, clips of things happening around Houston and Vegas. It knows I've been to Vegas twice the last year, so I'm getting a lot more Vegas videos. And of course, I save them all, and I'm like, we're going to do this next time we go. We're going to do this next time. And it knows my kids in Montessori school, so I get Montessori videos, and it knows I have did I say dad? So I get dad videos, and I get those funny, like, what I expected marriage to be like versus what it actually is like. So it's intent. It's not intent. It's interest-based algorithms. So like, if you want to reach more people, like Reels and TikTok is the best free way to do that. So anyways, so that's why I like to focus on that marketing part of it, and advertising as a part of that. Because I mean, if you're going to spend an hour doing something, which again, church is a business, let's translate that. If you make $20 an hour, would I rather spend an hour crafting a social media post that's going to be seen by 500 people? Or would I rather spend 30 minutes looking at an ad that I put $10 in that's going to reach 500 to 1,000 people? And I know those people don't already know us. What is the purpose of social media? Do you want to use it to get people to know and discover your church? Or do you want to use it just to continue to build up the people that already follow you? There's no wrong answer. You just have to be dedicated to what the purpose is and how it supports your mission.
Awesome. Well, I know,
and it's not an either or. You should be doing both.
Yes, absolutely. Now, and I know when we're talking about this, some of the listeners will be, employees of churches, of local churches. Mm-hmm. Some might not be. Are there ways that a local church might start making some changes now? Maybe they're not ready to invest in a marketing firm to come on board and help them. But are there some things they could start doing right now that might not cost them very much or might be free if somebody mm-hmm. in the congregation has the nerdy skills they need to do it?
Yeah. The first thing you need is clarity on what you're going to do and then consistency on following it through. One of the biggest things that we have a hard time with is we don't exactly know what we want. And so we pay attention to every webinar, sales pitch, and free resource and cold email that comes our way. And we end up trying to clean the house by doing one thing in the kitchen, one thing in the living room, one thing in the dining room. And then we're going to go watch this video over here. So nothing gets cleaned for that hour, right? And in the meantime, your spouse is like, what are you doing? Clean the house, clean the living room. I just wanted you to do this one thing. So having that clarity of this is what I need to do and having a roadmap to do it is what I think is key. It's why, Ricky, if I can take a moment here and say, go to bestknownchecklist.com, and we actually give you a checklist of everything we do for your church and everything you could be doing for your church. So if you start there, that's free. You can at least see all the potential that's out there. And then you can talk to me because we do consultations on this. And in fact, for 5 churches a month, we do a free consultation where we meet with you over a few meetings. We learn about your church, your people. We look at what you're doing, and then we build a customized roadmap for you to follow. Just yesterday, I talked with a pastor, no marketing budget, but we met for 2.5 hours over the week, and we built a customized roadmap. And he knows the number one thing he needs to do is he needs to get his messaging on point because his church looks like I don't know what to do. Like I see his church, it says Canvas Church. We meet on this Sunday. Fill out this form, please. And it's like, why? What's so special about this church? Why are you asking me to give you my name and email address if I don't know what you're going to do with it, right? So the first thing he needs to work on is this messaging. That's usually the number one thing churches need to do. Now, it's not free, but if you got $20 or if you just want to skip a meal and eat at home, go to Amazon.com and get the Building a Story Brand framework, Building a Story Brand Framework. It's a book on Amazon. It's $18. Actually, this week, as the time of a recording, it's on sale for $15. Grab that book and read it. That's going to help you figure out how to tell your church's story that's understandable and actionable for your community or your potential guests. I think so often, Ricky, we say, look at us. We're so great. Don't you want to be here? Come over here. And people look at your church and they say, who cares? Because it's all about us. Your marketing, your messaging, your promotions, if you want to get out from under that rock, you have to actually show people, look at you, right? And look at what you have and don't have. And by the way, those issues you're dealing with, those spiritual issues, you're seeking worldly solutions for it when the answer is right here. And honestly, brother, we're not the answer either. We're still figuring this out as well. We only have the path, essentially. We have the answer and we're following the path. Why don't you walk alongside of us? That's kind of the kind of message that comes out of us building a story brand framework. Now, at Nava Church Marketing, we have story brand guides, okay? Meaning certified, they've gone through training, extended training, they have certain years of experience. So we do it professionally. But if you want to DIY it, go get the book, read the book, fill it out as you're reading it. You're going to know exactly who your church is equipped to serve. You're going to know what's going to capture their attention. You're going to lay out 3 simple steps that they can take. So often we say, hey, come to church, come to potluck. Are you registered for VBS? Do you want to join a small group? Would you give to this capital campaign? We got a women's seminar coming up. It's like, no. If you give too many people too many options, no one's going to do anything. right? So instead, what is just step one? Step one, watch this sermon. Step one, look and see what to expect on Sunday. Step two, come visit us on Sunday. Step three, finally get the answers you've been looking for. Step three, finally get out from that boot that's on your neck. Step three, whatever that step three is, right? That's like the deliverance almost. Okay. So you get that 3-step, you're going to build that 3-step framework. So instead of like, hey, look at me, you're like, look at my clown nose. Isn't that funny? Come over here. Look, like, no, you have a problem. Jesus is the answer. Come with us on this journey. And by the way, here's the transformation you can expect. And if you choose not to go with us, just so you know, here's what continuing down that road is going to lead to. You get all that messaging in that $18 book. Plus, they're going to, in that book, I think towards the end, once you have your messaging, they're going to show you how to write your homepage of your website. So you get people to actually take action on your website. Because believe it or not, Ricky, and thank you for joining me on this journey, if you have a website, people are not going to visit your church because of the design of the website. If you have a pretty website, but no actionable, coherent message on the website of what to do, what to expect, and why this is important in your life, it's the same as having a sharp-dressed preacher with a nice pink pastel pocket square on stage preaching, but he ain't preaching anything good. He is just standing there, or he's preaching an anti-gospel, anti-biblical message. Looks good, but the message is empty, right? So we don't want to be that kind of church online. So I know a lot of website software, both in the church world and out, are saying, get this pretty design. Isn't this template pretty? But if you don't know what to put in there, if you don't know the message you need to tell, you're just going to be another sharp-dressed preacher that's going to seem really hollow. And again, people that visit your website, whether on purpose or on accident, are going to say, so what? What does this mean for me? Right? So I'm not saying go on your website and say, hey, come to church and get a free van. We're not saying that, right? But even Jesus fed people and they stayed around to listen to him. And so, we can meet people's needs, and not even a worldly need, but say, aren't you feeling hopeless? Aren't you feeling lonely? Are you tired of your spouse treating you differently? Are you tired of how you treat your spouse? Whatever that is, are you tired of being becoming the father you promised you never would become? We're going to help you walk along that journey and show you where the real fulfillment and abundant life is found. That's the message that you write. So just, like real simple, if you want to really go deeper, get that book. It's proven, it's time tested. And if you want to pay someone $3,000, then come to us and use one of our story brand guides. We'll do it for you in a day. And you don't have to do it yourself. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not the secret. It's the methodology that doesn't write or create something for you. It's you filtering out everything to get the message that's going to communicate to the right person in the right way, through the right medium, in the right timing, that's going to get them to take the right action.
Awesome. Well, when outside of the messaging, which sounds like that's definitely the number one thing. So outside of the messaging, what is probably like the number one thing you see when you walk into a proverbial walk into a church? What's one of the number one things that you see a lot of churches are not capitalizing on?
There's a few ways to say this, but I'm going to say showing they care, which could also be actually discipling people. I just did an episode on this, so I'm going to try not to rant on it here. If you want to hear me rant on it, go watch my episode of the Best Known Church Show. So often churches, we've been saying for the last couple of decades, maybe longer since I've been alive, we want to meet people where they are, right? You've heard that, Ricky, right?
Yeah.
As a church, we want to meet people where they are. What that really translates to in the practical world is we want to meet people where they are and drag them into our church service so we can finally tell them what's important to them. Imagine you're in a grocery store and a guy says, you're the pastor of that church, right? Like, dude, I slept on the couch last night. I'm angry. I'm about to lose my job. I'm one paycheck away. My wife can't get a job. I'm having to buy government cheese here or whatever. Like, what is wrong with me that my life is going so bad when I think I'm actually a pretty okay person? And you say, Great question. Come to church on Sunday and then I'll tell you. That is so often how our marketing sounds. It's very transactional.
Yeah.
And so, no, again, this kind of falls under messaging, but it's a specific point, is what we communicate is we're a very transactional church, and we won't help you until you help us, either by giving to a capital campaign, waking up early and coming to a church on Sunday, or coming to a life group. What if instead we actually lived what we believed in a way that we could engage and interact with people wherever they are, whenever they are, in a way that's meaningful to them, that isn't just a bait and switch. Hey, we care about you. We love you. Come to Sunday, but that's it, right? So this could take place in a few ways. If I go to your website and all I see is information about a service, I'm going to think your mission statement is we exist to put on awesome worship services and get as many people in there as possible. If you really are a church that wants to equip disciples to make disciples, or there's a church down the road, they have an outrageous mission statement. It's, we want to turn Houston into a God-fearing city. How crazy is that, right? 3 to 8 million people, depending on where you draw the line, all fearing God, bowing down like old biblical times. That's pretty cool. That's outrageous. Mm-hmm. But when I look at their messaging, I can see, here's everything we're doing to go out and serve and equip you where you are. And once you're equipped and served and you are a God-fearing person, then we equip you further over here. Then you come over to us and you become part of our quote unquote commune, okay, or whatever you want to call it. So I think so often we say, we're doing good work. Look at us. Aren't we doing good work? Don't you want to come over here? Instead of, how can I pray for you? What can I do for you right now? What's going on, man? Tell me about it. Tell me more about it. And when I go to your website, I don't see Jesus. I see a building and a time. And so I think part of that is when I look at a church and the pastor says, we really want to impact the community, then why are you telling the community they have to go to you? That sounds like it's impacting you and not the community. So what does that look like? It's going to, again, once you go through that story brand framework, I know I hound on that. It's just my personal favorite. There's other methods out there. For me and my clients, the story brand framework has worked the best. Mm-hmm. But once you go through there, you can start to say, okay, well, here's our messaging. Instead of come to a place to figure out your faith, come to a place to figure out your faith. How about it's, we'll help you figure out your faith, and here's 3 ways you can do that right now. We've got a devotional for you. We've got a video for you to watch. You can chat with us right now, right? And it's an actual chat. Like it actually dings a church leader's phone, and he's going to reply to you, and you can have a conversation. We've actually seen someone hear the gospel story and accept Christ over web chat. Like it's an amazing story, and it's an amazing opportunity. And instead of waiting till Sunday for them to have a bad day, to sleep in, to not wake up, to over snooze, or to get so frustrated trying to get their kids ready they decide not to come, what if you could share Jesus with them right there through your website? And you don't have to make any collateral. There's plenty of material out there. You're free to copy to your website. Just don't take credit for it, right? So, living out your mission is more than just come and see. I think so often we use the excuse that Jesus did say, come and see. But it's actually going out to where Jesus said, I'm here with you now. And being at a point where, there's a great preacher, I can't remember his name now, where he talked about people have flipped it, where it's not so much that Jesus went out and dined with sinners. It's that wherever Jesus dined, sinners would go. Right. And so it's not so much you're taking the church out of the building and you're never returning, but it's where you choose to take your church in your community. People will gather because there's absolute value and you are doing something there versus let's throw a Mary Kay party at our church and come and hear the pitch. Right. How about you actually go help people where they are right now? That's the biggest thing I see when a church is like, tell me more. It's like, hey, here's what you're saying, man. Like, it sounds like your mission statement is, let's pack this place and put on an awesome concert. And that's not what it is. Then let's change that messaging. So again, instead of come here and find your place in this universe, how about we help you figure out how to live out your faith and discover why you were created right here on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. or 3 a.m. Who knows? But anyways, that's a little bit more of a leadership change and methodology change. I can't ever say that word. Methodology, is that the right word?
Yeah.
that's more of a mind shift change and a leadership change and a little bit more of how we do things than just a straight up marketing thing. But I mean, if you can just figure that part out, that's when you become a church that no matter where you are, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, out in the park, even in the coffee shop, that's when the sinners come to want to dine with you.
That's awesome. When we're talking about, marketing, you mentioned, Instagram and TikTok are kind of the big things right now.
I don't know if they're the big things, but they're my favorite right now.
They're your favorite right now. Well,
Yeah.
I will say, the algorithms definitely are leaning that direction right now. Do you find
And Gen Z
that,
is leaning that direction too.
and Gen Z is leaning that direction? Do you find that churches are resistant to dive into those platforms, or are you finding that churches that are reaching out to you are super ready to make those changes?
That's a great question. It really depends on the church and the leader. And I'm not one because I do run a custom agency for this reason. I don't believe there's a one size fits all answer outside of Jesus, right? Again,
Exactly.
two Baptist churches can function completely different. One is reaching families and one is reaching boomers. Neither one is better than the other. They're both living out their mission. And so if you don't have the equipping to make a TikTok video every day or 2 or 3 a day, then yeah, you probably can't be on TikTok. However, and this is what I love, and I think, again, we've forgotten about this with social media because the church is a business. But we can do something that no business can, and that is to accomplish our mission, anyone can do that. So instead of a church saying, we're going to create a church TikTok account and we're going to post 3 times and we're going to do sermon clips and we're going to do funny memes, how about it's, hey, we have a member who really enjoys TikTok and she's got a really funny TikTok account. What if maybe it's a church account, maybe it's not, but maybe it's we equip her or him to share the gospel, share stories, share tips and insights, and maybe share a sermon clip every once in a while. What if we equip her to do all that? And instead, she's giving advice on how to better read your Bible every day. What am I reading today? Here's a story I heard. Here's a sermon clip. She's running it. And it doesn't even have to be on behalf of the church, but the church is helping put its word out there, put the message out there, and they're equipping her to do it, almost like a missionary, right? The entire church doesn't have to go on a mission trip, nor does the pastor have to go on a mission trip, but you can equip a missionary to go on a mission trip and supported by the church. So that's what I like. And I think you have to look at what you can do and what's going to work with your people. I mean, if you're a boomer church, which are some of my favorite clients, I have 3 boomer churches now. We just onboarded another one and we helped them figure out, you know what? We're really equipped to serve the people that the rest of the world has left behind. I love it. Great. Let's reach those people. Because now we're getting to the point, side note, we're getting to the point where even the church is leaving them behind. Hey, you love the bulletin? Yeah. Go online. You want to come to this event? Don't talk to Mary. Go online, right? You want to give? Go online. Like not only has the world left them behind, the church, they feel, I'm not saying it's true, but they feel that the church is leaving them behind. So what better when they move into a new community, they're already going through a transition because maybe they had to downgrade their house or move closer to their kids. They're already in a rough spot. What better way to say, God hasn't left you behind, and God's certainly not done with you, than a church that is specifically equipping them not to have a cool kids ministry, but to be better disciple makers as grandparents. Like, gets my heart rolling. But anyways,
awesome.
So for them, TikTok obviously doesn't make much sense. But there are other avenues that we can help them get their word out and get the message out and help expand their impact and grow their church if that's a goal. I lost my train of thought. Does that answer your question? I don't even remember the question.
Absolutely. No, I loved that. Well, before I let you go, what is one thing you would say to encourage those who are listening who want to get started in maybe, figuring out how they can share their church digitally some way?
Mm-hmm. Tell more stories. There are we have the best stories. Let me organize my thoughts here. We have the best stories. Literally, objectively, Ricky, we objectively have the best stories on the planet. Yet, when I go to a church website, it's more of that, look at us, aren't we great? We're so friendly, we're so good, but there's no stories. However, for Christmas, I go to buy my wife bed sheets for Christmas, new bed sheets that are like fancy cotton and all that stuff. I think it was Brooklinen. Go to that website. I had the best night's sleep of my life. My husband loves me so much more because I got this for Valentine's Day. And my kids are sleeping better and more refreshed, and they wake up in the morning and they're happy to go to school because they got a good night's sleep. They're telling those stories to sell bed sheets, but we can't tell a story about how God took someone that was lost and brought him into relationship with their creator. Like the best stories. I once was lost, but God, now I'm found, right? Like how great of a story is that? So start looking at your stories. And by the way, they don't have to be salvation stories. Like if you have 30 people in your church that are believers, you don't have 30 stories. You have children's stories. You have a story. One of my favorites to tell is, we had a guy come into our church and his brother died, lived 2 states away, and he just needed a bus ticket to get there. And we were able to get him to and from his brother's funeral. And not only that, we were able to build a relationship with him and share Jesus through that fact. Again, even Jesus fed people and helped them out, right? So if your church is equipped to do that, then tell those stories. And I'm not saying either get a video camera and get it in front of that guy. Tell me about your brother. And all. No, you can like, for that story, we told that story, but it was our receptionist who bought the ticket and who talked to the guy. And she just retold the story. So it's not awkward for him. It's definitely not awkward for her. And people get to see we are a church that's actually loving our community and actually cares about our community. So that when someone hears that story that's not a believer or not plugged into our church, they can see themselves in that story. They say, I know that if I'm in trouble, this church can help me. Or if you're in a good place, like I have more than I need. So this church is obviously doing good things. Let me volunteer or give or donate to this church. So there are lots of factors there. So just look at your stories. Even if you don't go through StoryBrand, even if you don't figure out your 3-step process, or you don't figure out who you're equipped to serve and what their pain point is and how Jesus addresses that, and you guide people through that, even if you don't figure any of that out, if you just tell more stories of what God is doing in your church and the transformation that comes about, you will get more people paying attention. And yeah, you will get more shares too. Ricky, what's a better 5-star review? If you go to Google and you're looking at churches, what's a better 5-star review? Great preacher, funny, friendly people. Or I was on the verge of losing my spouse and losing my job. I was in a downward spiral, but I found this church. I checked them out. They helped me with AA. They helped me kick the substance. I'm a better father now, and I'm living an abundant life. This church is amazing. Pastor Joe cares about me. And if you're looking for something more, this is the church. Which church would you go to, right? The story is what validates and proves what we're doing. Like Absolutely. On your website, if you say we're a friendly church, you better show pictures of friendly people. If you say you're a God-loving church, you better show sermons that prove you're a God-loving biblical church or whatever. Your stories help back up your claims. People will hear what you say, but they will believe what someone else says about you. Okay. So like just start getting those stories, start collecting those stories. And by the way, Pastor, you've got a dozen already. I know because I watch your sermon and you share a story on stage and then it's never told again. Like you can tell that story multiple times on social media. You can run ads with that testimonial. You can, even the stories you don't think, man, let me tell you, big humble pie that I had to eat when I was at a church ago. We were doing a series and we interviewed an older lady who talked about like the early days of the church, like of our church, not like the first century church. She's like, yeah, I came here, we moved to Edinburgh in 1940 or something like that. And I'm probably messing up the numbers, but and we did this and we really felt this. And it was hard to hear. I had to do a lot of audio manipulation. And I was like, this video is not going anywhere. It outperformed our second best video by like 10 times. I mean, tens of thousands of people watched this video, and we didn't put any money behind it. It was just people heard a story. It resonated with them. They shared it. It resonated with those people, and they shared it. And I'm like, this story here of this college kid is great. And it did fine, but it didn't crack 1,000. And meanwhile, I can't remember her name, but let's call her Miss June. Like, her video went crazy. And so, like, don't even objectively think this is a good story, but that's not a good story. I'm not going to tell that story. Just tell the stories and let the people be the objective judge. I mean, how many times have we preached a sermon and we're like, that was terrible. Oh, can't believe it. That was so bad. And then Monday morning, you're like, Pastor, that really spoke to me. That was the best sermon
Yes.
you've ever put on.
Absolutely.
And how many other times are we like, I got a banger. This is going to be it. Revitalizing is starting now. And crickets, right?
Yes.
Let the people let the people judge what's good and bad. Just tell the stories. That's your number one thing. Before, like, order the Story Brand book, go download my checklist, and while you're waiting for it to come in, go tell a story on social media, right? Like, I told one the other day, I was like, hey, we had someone come to one of our churches because they found their church in Uber. They don't have a car. They're like, well, if I'm going to go to a church, I'm going to make sure it's a church that Uber will take me to. So he opened up the Uber app, searched church. Our client was number one, and they went to our client's church that morning. And guess what? They heard that story, and now he doesn't have to use Uber because someone from the church picks him up every Sunday morning. Like,
Wow.
how great of a story is that? It's
That's great.
stupid. It's about a guy using Uber, but it's about how our clients are reaching more people by being more easily discovered. Which that's, get your messaging right first, because if he walks in and he doesn't know what to expect, or he decides to Google you, he needs to know what to expect. But anyways, just silly stories like that. We told a story about a pigeon that got stuck in our roof in the church office, and didn't really have a purpose. We weren't the youth pastor, and sometimes it feels like God's the pigeon stuck in the roof, and we can't quite. No, don't do that. Okay, don't do that. Just tell a funny story. It gets around, and what does it do? People, instead of thinking about what Disney Plus is doing, or thinking about whatever's on TikTok that they just watched that got them mad, or on Twitter or something like that, instead of thinking about that, they're thinking, hey, this church has a funny story. These people sound like me, they look like me, and it's just that one touch. You hear that in order for someone to make a decision, to make a purchase, this in your financial past or business past, right? In order for someone to make a purchase, they have to be contacted at least 7 times, or 7 touches. With churches, it's about 700 for them to actually pay attention to you, consider you, and maybe make that visit. So that's just one touch. Every story is a touch. And instead of worrying about plan a visit forms and automations and texting, those are all great. But if you just tell a story, that's one touch. You tell a story another time, that's another touch. And you could get someone to actually seriously consider and visit your church just by telling those stories. So number one thing, you got to tell those stories. Ricky, this should probably be like 3 podcasts. I apologize. Thank you for letting me go on here.
No problem.
This is such
This
a
is
passion
great
because,
stuff.
again, I want those churches to become the cornerstone of the community, that everyone knows this church is for me. Ricky, even a vegetarian knows the best steakhouse in town, right? So
Yep.
I want everyone in your town to know, I hate all these churches, but that one is actually doing something. I have a family member that knows about Jesus, knows they're going to hell, and is totally okay with it. But they love my content because they know that I'm trying to shape and change communities and impact communities, to bring them out from darkness and despair and loneliness and abuse and anxiety and addiction. I'm trying to bring them out from all of that, utilizing the church. And so they love and support what I'm doing. Even though they don't believe it, they want to see it succeed. And your church can be the same way. Just because you're not growing doesn't mean you're not growing the kingdom, or at least impacting or planting seeds for someone else, like your TikTok girl, to eventually say, you know what? This is serious stuff. I need to pay attention.
Awesome. Well, for those who want to check it out, how can people find you?
I'm just going to give you one thing here. You're listening to a podcast. I don't want to ask you to do something that you're not comfortable with. So you can just find me on your podcast app or YouTube, The Best Known Church Show. If you are able to keep up with me, God bless you, because not even my wife or kids can keep up with me sometimes. You're going to love the Best Known Church Show, because it's just this for every Thursday at 12 o'clock live. And then, of course, the replay is available in your podcast app and all that. Go follow me there. We're all about helping you increase your reach, grow, open up more discipleship opportunities, and yes, impact your community. And we use marketing as the tool to do that. It doesn't replace your personal invite. It doesn't replace your outreach strategy. It just kind of scales it up so you can do it more effectively. And again, increase those contact points so people know when they feel that pull, they know your church. Or if they ask someone, who's doing this? They can recommend your church. Or if they go to Google, Google will recommend your church. We're going to show you how to do all that. So Best Known Church Show in whatever you like to listen to your podcasts in.
Awesome. Well, and I'll put links down in the show notes as well to make it just a little bit easier for some of our listeners to
Absolutely.
find you.
Scroll down and click all the links.
Just
click those affiliate links too if you got any down there, just for Ricky. I don't know if you're using any of those.
Justin, it has been great having you on the show.
I appreciate you, Ricky. Thank you very much.
It was great connecting with Justin this week and talking marketing. There are some exciting things going on in marketing to find seekers online if you weren't aware. If you want to help your church in that way, or make sure you check out the links down in the show notes below. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, click all those links down there. That way you'll be able to get notifications anytime we release new content. And you can find all of our social links to our YouTube channel and to our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. If you enjoy the show and want to help even more, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. We've changed all of our Patreon levels, and every level has some great benefits and makes a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will also get to hear exclusive stories of believers we are serving around the world through our ministry partners. To check it out, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click on support in the menu. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Hebrews 13. May the God of peace, who through the blood of the eternal covenant brought back from the dead the Lord Jesus Christ, that great shepherd of the sheep, equip you with everything good for doing his will. And may he work in us what is pleasing to him, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. We'll see you next week. Blessings.
Hey.